The Las Vegas Raiders recently held an introductory press conference for their new head coach, Pete Carroll, and general manager John Spytek. In this video, we'll break down some of the key points from their press conference. I'm excited to share this with you because there were some really interesting moments that give us a glimpse into the future of the team. These two seem to have a clear vision for how the Raiders are going to be built, and I truly believe they're on the right track to help the team succeed and, hopefully, bring a Super Bowl victory in our lifetime. The Raiders have struggled over the past 2 decades, but it looks like this new leadership is focusing on a more solid foundation, building a roster that can compete consistently and win games. What's clear from the press conference is that the Raiders are going to commit to a strong, balanced game plan. They're focused on running the ball effectively, playing tough defense, and most importantly, supporting the quarterback. These values were echoed by both Carroll and Spytek, and it seems like they're already in agreement on how to move forward. The plan is simple, yet effective. Play conservative football, run the ball, protect the quarterback, limit turnovers, and play great defense. This is how successful teams have been built in the past. Think about the Buccaneers' Super Bowl win with a veteran quarterback like Tom Brady, or the Seahawks' success with Russell Wilson. Both teams focused on the same principles: protecting the ball, running the football, and playing strong defense. The Raiders will need to adopt a similar approach if they want to return to competitiveness. One of the Raiders' biggest issues last season was turnovers, something that derailed their chances of success. When the team was able to protect the ball, run the football, and play solid defense, they had more success. That's the blueprint they'll need to follow moving forward. To make this work, they'll need to build a strong roster, and that includes finding a reliable running back. It won't be easy, especially since draft picks are limited. But there are good running back options in the upcoming draft, and even if they don't pick one early on, there's still plenty of talent to work with. Signer McCormick also showed promise last season, so that gives the Raiders some options for the future. In summary, the Raiders' new leadership has a clear plan to build a tough, balanced team that can win the right way, through solid fundamentals, great defense, and a commitment to protecting the football. It's an exciting time for the team, and with the right moves, they could be on their way to success. The Raiders have some interesting decisions ahead, particularly at the running back position. Dylan Lobb and Alexander Madison have shown promise, and adding another rookie running back could be a great move. If the Raiders can build a solid 1-2 punch in the backfield, it should give them a better shot at success. I really like the idea of sticking to a conservative approach by focusing on a strong running game and controlling the tempo of the game. Pete Carroll also had a powerful message for the players, which stood out during the press conference. While coaches often talk about the importance of competition, Carroll's words had a unique emphasis. Here's what he had to say: "It all starts with competition. You're either competing or you're not, and I'm going to make that clear to every guy that walks in here. We'll bring in a new draft class and some free agents, and we need to see what they're all about. But the competition part is theirs to command. If you want to be on a great team, you need to be a great teammate." What stands out here is the idea that being a great teammate is just as important as being a great player. It's not enough to have talent. You need to be someone who buys into the team's goals, values, and culture. This might seem obvious, but sometimes players get caught up in their personal brands or financial goals instead of focusing on the team's success. Carroll's message is clear. A team's success depends on its players being selfless and working together. It's a powerful reminder that football is a team sport, and if players want to thrive, they need to be committed to supporting each other. One of the most important things for the Raiders moving forward is finding the right quarterback. This is a crucial decision, and it's one of the most important positions on the field. In fact, when asked about it during the press conference, Pete Carroll gave the most insightful response of all. The Raiders know that securing the right quarterback is essential for their success, and it will be a key focus as they continue to build the team. This section gives us even more insight into the Raiders' plans moving forward, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. Both John Spytek and Pete Carroll were asked about it, and their responses provide some key takeaways on how they view this crucial role. John Spytek shared a powerful story about his experience with what he considers the greatest player ever, Tom Brady. He emphasized that it's not just about the strongest arm or the best thrower. It's about finding a leader who is willing to do whatever it takes to win. That drive and determination are what set the best quarterbacks apart. The Raiders are committed to finding a quarterback with that kind of leadership, one who will push teammates to reach new levels of performance. Spytek also made it clear that they would leave no stone unturned in their search for the right leader for this team. Pete Carroll echoed similar sentiments, saying that building a successful team starts with the quarterback position. He pointed out that, while the quarterback is crucial, it's not the only position that matters. The Raiders plan to lean on Tom Brady's insights as much as possible, recognizing his unique experience and understanding of the game. Carroll also shared how important it is to build a strong, supportive team around the quarterback. He referenced the teachings of Coach Walsh, who always emphasized that the quarterback position is the hardest in professional sports. To make life easier for the quarterback, the Raiders will focus on running the ball, protecting the quarterback, limiting turnovers, and playing great defense. The key takeaway here is that both Spytek and Carroll are aligned on the idea that having a great quarterback isn't enough on its own. They plan to build a strong, well-rounded team around the quarterback to set them up for success. This approach has shifted my own perspective on how to build a team. We often get caught up in the idea of finding the next big quarterback, like Josh Allen or Brock Purdy, but maybe the better route is to focus on building a complete team and supporting an average quarterback with a solid roster. This is a smarter, more sustainable way to approach the game. In short, the Raiders are committed to developing a team that will support its quarterback, and they understand that winning starts with a strong, well-rounded roster. It's not just about getting a star quarterback. It's about building a team that works together to make the quarterback's job easier. This strategy could very well set the Raiders up for long-term success. The reality is, most quarterbacks don't win championships, and a big reason for that is they don't always have the right team around them. For example, Peyton Manning struggled for years to win a Super Bowl despite consistently having great regular seasons. He'd rack up 10, 11, or even 12 wins, but would often be eliminated early in the playoffs. This highlights the importance of building a strong, well-rounded roster, something Pete Carroll is emphasizing. He's making it clear that it's not just about finding a superstar quarterback, it's about creating a solid team that can support that quarterback. What Carroll is pushing is crucial: to build a great football team around the quarterback, focusing on running the ball, protecting the quarterback, and playing strong defense. I love that this is the direction the Raiders are heading in. Carroll and Spytek seem to be completely aligned on this approach, and it's exciting to see these two come together on a common vision for success. They understand that they're not going to land the next big top-tier quarterback like Caleb Williams or Bryce Young. Realistically, they won't have the first overall pick to grab those types of players, but what they can do is bring in a quarterback who might not be in that elite top 5, but who can still thrive as long as the team around him is solid. Whether it's someone like Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, or even someone less proven, as long as the roster is built well, the quarterback will have the support to succeed. Spytek echoed a similar sentiment, saying it's not about having the strongest arm or being the best passer. What matters most is finding a quarterback who gets the job done and can push his teammates to be better. This reminds me of Baker Mayfield, who was written off by many, but found success when given the right opportunity with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. While they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, the Bucs have had success largely because they gave Mayfield a chance, and he embraced the role with a chip on his shoulder. It's a great example of how a quarterback who isn't seen as elite can still help a team achieve success if the right pieces are in place. So, what Spytek and Carroll are telling us is that they're willing to look at all options and are focused on finding a quarterback who can lead, compete, and support the team's goals. It's not just about flashy stats or arm strength, it's about finding a guy who can get the job done and help elevate the team as a whole. This message is one that makes a lot of sense and has me feeling optimistic about the direction the Raiders are heading in. The focus for the Raiders is clear. They want a quarterback who is a proven winner, someone who can get the job done and lead the team to victory. While it's important to have good ball placement and other technical skills, the Raiders' priority is finding a guy who can inspire and push the team to succeed. The message is simple. They will build the team around this quarterback. I love this approach, and it gives a sense of direction for what they are looking for. One question that remains is whether Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew could be the guy for the job. Can these players thrive if they're surrounded by a strong roster and solid coaching? It's a question that will likely get answered over the next few months as the Raiders assess their quarterback situation. During free agency, we'll see which quarterbacks are available, and it's possible the Raiders could target one of them. If they don't, they might look to the draft for a new addition. Alternatively, the team could move forward with O'Connell and Minshew if the right quarterback doesn't become available. While the idea of sticking with these two might not be ideal, I do think that with the right offensive coordinator, I'd feel more comfortable with them this season than I did last year. Last year, the Raiders struggled with Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator. His hire was widely criticized, and it's no surprise that it contributed to some of the team's struggles. So, depending on who the Raiders bring in as the offensive coordinator, I think O'Connell and Minshew could have a better chance to succeed this year. Of course, the quarterback position isn't the only one the Raiders need to focus on. There are many other positions that need to be addressed to build a competitive roster. John Spytek was asked what the first steps are to build out the roster, and he gave some great insight into their approach. Spytek explained that his role over the past 9 years has been to observe the NFL as a whole, and now his focus is on building a winning team with the Raiders. The first thing he plans to do is meet with coach to discuss the type of players they want at each position. A key part of their process will be figuring out what qualities they're looking for in players, both in terms of skill and character. They're focused on bringing in players who love football and are competitive every day. Spytek emphasized that they want it to be difficult to make the team, and those who are willing to step up to the challenge will be rewarded. Overall, it's clear that Spytek and Carroll are committed to building a roster of not only talented players, but also people who embody the Raiders' values. The team's success won't just depend on athleticism, but also on the character and mindset of each player. It's an exciting direction for the team, and the foundation they're setting looks like it could lead to sustained success. The Raiders' approach to team building is centered around the people who make up the roster. Both Pete Carroll and John Spytek have emphasized that the key to success is finding players who love football and are willing to compete every day. Spytek echoed Carroll's sentiment that it's not just about assembling a group of talented players, it's about creating a culture where every player is committed to the team and its goals. If a player isn't ready to compete, there's simply no place for them. The Raiders are looking to create an environment where every spot on the roster is earned through hard work and dedication. When it comes to roster construction, Spytek stressed that it starts with the person, not just the position. While the Raiders already have some talented players on their roster, the focus is on adding more players with the right mentality and competitive spirit. This philosophy extends to all positions, including the quarterback. For the Raiders, it's less about finding the guy with the strongest arm or the best ball placement, and more about finding someone who can lead and inspire the team. This same mentality applies to other positions, like running back. Spytek shared an interesting story about Bucky Irving, a running back from the Buccaneers, who highlighted the importance of agility and avoiding tackles in one-on-one situations. It's not just about speed or vision, it's about finding the right mix of traits that make a player successful in the system the Raiders are building. Another important aspect of building the Raiders roster is ensuring that the coaches and scouts are aligned in their understanding of the team's expectations. Spytek emphasized the need for everyone to be on the same page when it comes to identifying the right players and instilling the right values. This clear direction will help create a cohesive team with a shared sense of purpose. Finally, there was discussion about the staff, which is a critical element of building a successful team. Carroll and Spytek are in the early stages of assembling their coaching staff, and they are looking for individuals who understand the Raiders' philosophy while also bringing fresh perspectives. Carroll wants to work with coaches who have been with him in the past as they understand his approach, but he also values bringing in new faces who can learn the system and contribute their own ideas. Maintaining continuity with some of the existing coaches is also a priority, as it provides valuable insight and stability as the team moves forward. Ultimately, Carroll and Spytek are looking for coaches who are passionate about the game and can help the team grow and reach its full potential. In all, the Raiders are focused on building a team that is not just talented, but also driven by a strong sense of character and a commitment to competition. It's an exciting time for the organization, and their approach to building the roster and staff could lead to long-term success. Pete Carroll shared that the Raiders are still in the early stages of assembling their staff, but they've already started conversations with potential candidates. One key point that Carroll emphasized is that he values working with people who have been part of his coaching tree and understand his philosophy. He mentioned that having some staff members who are already familiar with his expectations and system will be important as they build out the coaching staff. This is a good indication of the type of coaches the Raiders might look to bring in. Carroll has worked with several successful coordinators, like Robert Saleh and Steve Sarkisian, who have had great careers, but unfortunately, those guys are already in head coach positions and won't be available. However, there are still several potential candidates who could join the staff, such as Gus Bradley and Shane Waldron. While some might have reservations about certain coaches, the key takeaway here is that the Raiders will likely prioritize bringing in coaches who are already familiar with Carroll's style and system. With this direction in mind, it seems clear that the Raiders are positioning themselves to be competitive in the near future. The coaching staff, combined with a strong roster, could mean that the team will be a serious contender for playoff spots as early as next season. This would be a major step forward for the organization, especially since it's been 20 years since the Raiders have had a consistent playoff presence. The optimism surrounding the Raiders' potential is exciting, especially with the hopes of making a playoff run, much like how other coaches have had success in their first seasons with new teams. However, the challenge is always there. Facing off against strong divisional rivals like the Chiefs, who are on the verge of a third straight Super Bowl appearance. The Raiders' rebuilding process will need to keep pace with the success of those teams, but if they make the right moves, they could be a team to watch in the coming years. It seems like the Raiders are heading in the right direction under the leadership of Pete Carroll and John Spytek, particularly when it comes to roster construction. They're emphasizing collaboration, with both having equal input on decisions, which is great because it allows for a more holistic approach to team building. Pete Carroll, with his extensive experience and success in various roles, especially with the Seahawks and USC, brings a wealth of knowledge that will be valuable in shaping the Raiders' future. In terms of how decisions will be made, Carroll and Spytek made it clear that they'll be partners in the process. This collaboration seems to be an advantage, as Pete Carroll has a strong track record of building successful teams, while Spytek brings his experience from his time with the Buccaneers. It's clear they have a shared vision for the team, and it's reassuring to see that they'll be working together on key decisions rather than leaving things solely to one person. One of the things that stood out was Spytek's perspective on roster construction. He pointed out that there's no perfect way to build a roster, but he highlighted the importance of drafting players and bringing in undrafted free agents, UFAs. This is something the Buccaneers did well, with 44 of their 53 roster spots last year being filled with players they either drafted or signed as UFAs. It's a smart long-term strategy because it allows you to build a team that fits your system and culture, rather than relying too heavily on free agency, which can sometimes be a hit-or-miss approach. Spytek also emphasized that free agent signings can be risky, especially when they involve players who had success in one system but may not translate well to a new environment. For example, paying big money to a player like Corey Littleton, who thrived in one scheme but didn't work out in a new system, is a cautionary tale. This reinforces the idea that focusing on homegrown talent is a more sustainable way to build a team. Overall, the message is clear. The Raiders are looking to build a strong, competitive team by emphasizing player development, collaboration in decision-making, and not relying too heavily on free agency to fill roster gaps. It's a philosophy that can pay off in the long run, and with the right staff and roster moves, the Raiders could be on the verge of turning things around and making a playoff push sooner rather than later. It sounds like the Raiders are in a promising position with Pete Carroll and John Spytek at the helm, and there's a lot of excitement about their potential to turn the team around. The comparison to the Seahawks' success, especially with the unconventional decision to draft Russell Wilson when most teams passed on him due to his height, highlights the kind of outside-the-box thinking that could benefit the Raiders. Carroll's ability to recognize talent regardless of conventional expectations has been a key factor in his success, and Spytek seems to share that mindset. You're right to mention that we'll get a better sense of Spytek's ability as a GM after his first draft. A successful draft can really define a GM's future, and it will be telling to see how he approaches the draft, especially in terms of finding players that fit the system they want to build. It's understandable why you feel more optimistic about Spytek compared to previous GMs like Dave Ziegler or Mike Mayock, who didn't have the same impact or vision for the team. In the end, the key will be whether they can execute their vision and make smart decisions in areas like player development, roster construction, and scouting. If they can make the right moves in the draft and free agency and create a culture of competition and accountability, the Raiders could very well be on track to get back into playoff contention soon. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Keep me posted on any updates, and I'll be happy to discuss them further.